Welcome to our third uh, Auburn Avenue reading for the special issue on gender. I think all of us are here in terms of our readers. We do have one special guest that should be coming later on. And I'm excited about that. But I'm so excited about our readers today. Some faces who are very familiar to me, some who I'm now newly a fan of after reading your work when you submitted it to the issue and being able to revisit it over and over again since that initial time. Also, I always have to represent because it is reunion time. I got my Spellman sister in the house. Oh my God, and a Spellman sister will be reading next week. So, yeah, it's Auburn Avenue, right? It's right down the street. So there she go. There's Teresa. she'll be reading next week. And so ATL short. Peace up, ATL. So I'm really excited about this issue. So excited about the contributors. So excited about what we have to bring. We also have a special guest for next week, and I think we should start actually letting people know about our special guest. I'll talk to Chuck about that. Maybe Chuck will send me a message saying, like, do you think? Because I feel like our special guests are special, and they should be known. But to start us off, I will open with some other people's poetry. Am I gonna open with some other people's poetry? Yes. From Natasha Trethewey's Monuments, I will read What the Body Can Say. Even in stone, the gesture is unmistakable. The man, upright, though on his knees, spine arched, head flung back and covering his eyes, his fingers spread across his face, I think grief. And since he's here in the country yard of the divinity school, what he might ask of God. How easy it is to read this body's language, or those gestures we've come to know, the raised thumb that is both a symbol of agreement and the request for a ride. The two fingers held up at once meant victory, then peace. But what was my mother saying that day not long before her death, her face tilted up at me, her mouth falling open, wordless, just as we open our mouths in church to take in the wafer, meaning communion. What matters is context, the side of the road, or that my mother wanted something I still can't name. What kneeling, my face behind my hands, I might ask of God. Natasha Trethewey, our beloved. And so we will start alphabetically with Saida Agostini. Saida is a queer Afro-Guyanese poet and activist. Her work is featured in Origins, the Black Ladies Brunch Collective's anthology, Not Without Our Laughter. Y'all go get it if you want good Black, like rich Black women all over just the funk of life, that phrase in that collection. The Baltimore Sun, Pluck, Little Patuxent Review, and other publications. She has received support for her poetry from Cave Canem, the Blue Mountain Center, and other institutions. Welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you. Bettina, I'm so honored that you've created this space. Also, just such gratitude to Chuck Huru. I've been really excited about this. I've been excited about an excuse to put on makeup. I did my best. It's been a few months, y'all. So I'm gonna read two of the works that got featured. in Auburn Avenue, as well as one or two other pieces, if time permitting. The first piece I'm going to read to you is from a series that I've been writing based on Guyanese mythology. So in Guyana, there is a person called the Old Haig, which is a very old, wrinkled, hunchback woman who literally leaves her skin at night to go and drive others mad. And interestingly enough, in Guyana, and pretty tragically, a lot of old women who look this way have been harmed and harassed, and even in times threatened for their lives. And so I really wanted to like kind of reinvent that myth, which is what you see here. And this is called The Old Haig Goes Hunting. Legend holds that I am ugly and stooped, covered in frightful disdain, but rather I glory in my own sight. Naked, black, wrinkled flesh, breasts, low-hanging, ripe fruit, my sex a shining, damp shell. At nights while you slumber, I go flying, crowned in blue fire above the Mahaika, my skin left sleeping in bed. There are those who would argue my midnight visits spur madness, report of women who cut machetes as they would my breasts and do a violence to their men. I say, the taste of me intoxicates, bewitches my beloveds to cut what keeps them tethered and sighing, toiling in heat for a man that does no good. In truth, this way is no easier. Boys spread white salt and rice and strict lines to bar me from my own skin, my own beloveds shy with fear when they first see me. But then I reach out my hand, hold them to my chest, and sing the history of old Black women digging and crafting this ancient earth into consciousness. I say, this is yours, take it. And they come shuddering with power. So I'm obsessed with writing about Black women. I guess that makes sense because I'm a Black woman. And one of the women that I feel oftentimes doesn't get talked enough about is Recy Taylor. And so Recy Taylor, just for context, is a Black woman who was raped during the Jim Crow era, which obviously we know isn't out of the norm. But what is different is that she took her white accusers to court, and actually Rosa Parks helped her. So I wanted to write a ballad about her. And there's an epigraph from one of the white men who raped her. And it's act just like you did with your husband or I'll cut your damn throat. To be an American is to love roads that tried to kill me, dust, the desperate beat of Fanny's stout white fists against that green Chevy, a murder of white men packed inside, their pale hands a lesson on patriotism and allegiance. To be an American is to love God, to love how we can call out his name maybe 1,000 times in one endless, bloody, breaking night, to glory in the silence of an answer that never comes. I am an American because I call a thing a thing. Love is my child. Home is wherever my daddy goes, frantic, searching for my body. And what those 7 white men did in all those godless hours was rape me, laugh, train steel at my heart. My God, if I waited for you, maybe I'd be dead in that lonesome forest, my bare breast holding a grove of pecan trees, the taste of my blood lingering in its fruit, a shamed footnote in another man's sorrow. You let me keep my tongue, I'll use it to set this road afire. And so the last poem I'm gonna read is also about another epic Black woman that I've claimed as my own spiritual ancestor, Harriet Tubman. And I'm just gonna read y'all the poem, but it's called Harriet Tubman is a Lesbian. And here you go. Jabari says, fuck that. Harriet wasn't trying to turn the underground into Henrietta's. But shit, I want a hero. A full-on Black queer woman setting fire to slave ships, cursing out white motherfuckers, and going home to love on Phyllis Hyman's fine-ass great-great-granny. I want a history where Harriet and Sojourner get together and make cataclysmic, good God kind of love. While Luther serenades them with skin shining, it looks like he just swam all up in Johnson's and Johnson's to get there. Him singing to them, his sequin blazer, the North Star they follow hand in hand under the cover of knotted trees and vines rising up to hide them. The glow of lightning bugs, grasshoppers humming as Luther executes a smooth two-step to Wait for Love. Prince behind him humping the stage. And that moment when Sojourner bends down, cups her hands, dips them into a running creek and says, come on, Harriet, drink. And thinks, someday I'll make me a poem about how I love her. That night, the first time they ever found the salt to kiss, during an intermission while Luther reapplies his eyeliner and Prince takes over the mic, crooning, baby, 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 what's it gonna be tonight? Sojourner and Harriet latching on to each other's bodies, sucking nipples like they deliver honeyed wine, hollering a blue joyful streak in answer to the Prince over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saida. And makeup you did. Those glasses are everything. And I agree, like being able to have an opportunity to put on that's why I love this. The face, the goatee is fully grown in. Otherwise, like the eyebrows are still kind of caterpillar-y, but you know. So thank you so much for showing up and all your fierceness. Thank you for the work. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and also thank again the amazing editorial crew that is a part of Auburn Avenue. That, of course, is especially our editor-in-chief, Chuck Huru. In addition, the amazing entire team that I would completely have been lost without, and that's Taylor Allison Lewis, Malcolm Tariq, Matthew B. Kelly, Ariana Benson. Thank you so much for working with our writers this whole time. Thank you for you know, being a part of this process and making it so much more easy for me as a guest editor for this issue. Next to the virtual stage is Donna Ain Davis. Donna Ain Davis is an anthropologist who is the director of the Center for the Study of Women in Society at the Graduate Center at the City University of New York, CUNY. Her research is focused on Black women's experiences, particularly on domestic violence and reproduction. Davis is also a doula. Thank you so much for being here, and welcome Dr. Donna Ain Davis to the stage.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just turn it up a little bit, or if you can get to the mic a little
How's
bit.
that?
It's a little better.
Okay, good. Thank you, Bettina. Thank you, Chuck and Auburn Avenue for producing such a beautiful journal. I'm so excited to be among such profound and prolific writers. And there are a lot of people that I'd like to thank, but I wanted to thank four in particular. Shannon Miller, who first told me about the call for submissions because I don't think I would have seen it. I want to thank Andrea Williams and Troy Lambert, whose artwork accompanies each of the stories, each of the short stories. And finally, I want to thank my grandmother, Angie, whose spirit continues to guide me. What I submitted it's something called Black Girl and Triptych, which are stories that are written in sets of 3. And this set that I submitted and that was accepted focuses on the lives of Gilda Girl, her mother Ida, and her younger sister Frankie Mae, who left Edgefield County, South Carolina for Harlem, New York in the 1960s. And the stories are sort of coming of age tales that are historically referential and engage with subjects like domestic violence, sexuality, girlhood, womanhood, labor, and race. But really the stories are a whole universe of stories of love among women. And so tonight I'm just going to read an excerpt from the short story S's, Aspirin, and Babies. And I hope that those who are joining us this evening will be inspired to read the others. As it turned out, it was hard to be a Black girl going to school in the Bronx in the 1970s, even if you had an afro like Angela Davis. Some of the other girls who attended the same school as Gilda Girl, now just Gilda, lived in the South Bronx and were bused to the predominantly white neighborhood. And they were mean as hell. They were especially mean to Gilda, who hated living in the predominantly white neighborhood. Gilda's dislike of the new neighborhood made her quite unpleasant to be around, and her nastiness was a cover-up for her anxieties of being near friendless and her fears of loss. Gilda seemingly had not recovered from the loss she felt that resulted from moving from South Carolina to Harlem to the Bronx. Losing the familiar made her scared. So she acted the opposite, acted like she was always right about everything. In the back of her mind, though, Gilda wondered how right could a 13-year-old, dark-skinned girl with buck teeth be? Gilda was drowning so deep in her own miasmic feelings of being dark, feeling out of place, being misunderstood because she lived in a predominantly white neighborhood and wanting to return to Harlem. All those feelings knit into a nastiness that Gilda wore like a too-tight sweater. Those girls who rode to school on the bus from the other side of the Bronx probably did not like Gilda because she constantly used S's. Gilda pluralized words, morphing what was likely to be singular for the girls who were bused in a way that suggested she had more than one of an item. And she did. Her mother, Ida, had been able to buy things for her girls because she had saved, and she did not want her girls to look broken to all the white people that they now lived around. Instead of talking about a pocketbook, Gilda talked about pocketbooks, as in, I don't know which of my pocketbooks to wear today. You see, the possibility of Gilda having more than the girls from the South Bronx was really an affront. So they sneered at Gilda, like she peed on herself or bled through white pants. Sneering was a signal that the girls hated someone enough to provoke a fight. Consequently, Gilda lived with the prospect of always being jumped. You see, everybody was hurting from different places. Being disliked by the bused Black girls was the reason Gilda dreamt of ending her life, of being ostracized. In the solitude of her bedroom, Gilda leaned against the windowsill of the sixth-floor apartment her mama rented and stared for hours at the stars in the night sky. Each night, Gilda hoped she would go into a coma. She obviously didn't know everything because death never showed up. She didn't really know what a coma was. At some point, though, in the middle of the night, she simply woke up with a pain in her neck because of the awkward way her head rested against the lower window sash. Sunrise inevitably presented itself the next day, the light seeping through the imperceptible space between her closed eyelids. The fact that the sun's rays woke her up was evidence she had not died during the night. After several months of trying to become comatose from stargazing and desperate to end the pain of being hated by a group of girls she really liked because they reminded her of her cousins who were also loud and feared, Gilda began to take aspirin every night, just one. Gilda actually had no idea about the toxicity of aspirin, which in fact can be lethal. Gilda thought that if it was in the medicine chest, it must be good for the sort of thing she wanted, to die. Gilda willed the accumulation of aspirin in her body to put her into a deep sleep, the coma that she wanted to know. Instead, each day she rose with the sun. During the last month of her trial and error, Gilda learned that one of the girls from the South Bronx was pregnant. From that point on, the negative, hate-filled attention that Gilda typically received was redirected to the growing belly of the meanest of the bused Black girls, Tasha. One day, Tasha sat alone in the schoolyard on a cement ledge. Gilda sat next to her for no good reason. Well, there was a reason. Gilda could not believe she knew a person who was going to be the real-life stereotype that wandered and moved in people's minds about fast Black girls. Because she was pregnant and in junior high school, Tasha most certainly fit the image that Gilda's mother, Ida, had painted about fast girls. Gilda asked Tasha how she was doing. Tasha seemed simultaneously uninterested and interested in Gilda, so she decided to talk to her. During the conversation, Gilda asked Tasha if she was scared to give birth. Surprisingly, Tasha said no. And then she told Gilda, "There ain't nothing to be afraid of, because babies come out your mouth." In an attempt to not be accused of being the bossy know-it-all she actually was, Gilda moved closer to Tasha to make sure no one heard that she was about to tell her how babies are really born. She didn't want Tasha to be embarrassed by her own lack of knowledge. Gilda knew about babies because Ida did not want Gilda to ever get pregnant like she had. So she told her all about keeping her legs closed and the actual birth of a baby. In great detail, Ida told Gilda about going into labor, the sensation of having to go to the bathroom, the pushing, the grunting, all the liquids that flow, and the number of hours it can take for your vagina to become pliable enough for a baby's head to emerge. It was enough to keep Gilda from even thinking about getting pregnant. But knowing what she knew about birthing also made the inside of Gilda's mouth feel raw because, truth can be so irritating. Gilda panicked. What if she didn't tell Tasha what she knew? Would trauma become Tasha's overcoat? Gilda envisioned Tasha screaming as she felt the baby's head coming out of her vagina. She pictured Tasha blanking out from the cascade of pain, which could lead her to treat the baby badly. She feared Tasha's incomprehensibility about birth might make her a bad mother, since most people thought fast girls made bad mothers. Gilda inched closer and said, "Babies come from down there," pointing to Tasha's crotch. "You'll have to open your legs and push and push and push, and then the baby will slide out. And even though it may hurt, you will love it and it will love you." Gilda added the part about love, so Tasha would not think that all things that hurt are to be hated. Tasha covered her mouth in disbelief. Tears formed on her cheek like drops of water on window glass. Some rolled down and others maintained their shape on her face, refusing to dissipate. Tasha looked at Gilda and said in a low, angry voice, "You lying? Ain't no one ever said they come out of there." Tasha rose up from the cement ledge the way a cat moves from a resting position and walked 50 paces away before turning around. Facing Gilda, Tasha stared as if searching for a sign that Gilda might be right. Tasha turned away and started walking again, but then stopped. This time, she only moved her head, looking over her shoulder at Gilda, and Tasha said, "If it do happen, like you say, I'm gonna remember you told me." That was the last time Gilda and Tasha spoke. It was also the last time the girls who were bused from the other side of the Bronx bothered Gilda. Magically, the taunts, the threats, and the likelihood of fights involving salt under the nails and faces greased with Vaseline ended. Several months later, Tasha had a baby girl. Of course, she brought the baby to school to show her off. Gilda spied Tasha from down the block. They saw each other and their eyes locked for a split second. Tasha, who now looked like a grown woman with grown woman concerns, reached into the carriage, picked up the baby, and cradled her like a star so her friends could get a real good look. Gilda knew by the way Tasha held the baby up that she too was being invited to look. And somehow, Gilda knew that that little baby might not have such a hard time being a Black girl in the Bronx. Nothing or no one was ever going to come between that little girl, nor the 3 other little girls Tasha would have, and their mother. Gilda knew she was right about one thing, and she was glad she hadn't died. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. An amazing story, an amazing triptych. I'm so glad that we got to publish it. I also want to remind folks that Auburn Avenue is independently run. It is not backed by a big university or foundation, and so it is worked on by the energy of the heart. So but it still needs help in operating costs and making sure that in the future we can pay uh, writers, poets, artists for their submissions. So if you would like to donate to Auburn Avenue, you can do so at the Cash App, which is Cash App Auburn Avenue. And any little bits of money or great bits of money would be greatly appreciated. Next to the virtual stage is also Dr. LeConte Dill. LeConte Dill was born and raised in South Central Los Angeles and is currently creating a home place in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. She holds degrees from Spelman College, UCLA, and UC Berkeley, has participated in VONA Voices and Cave Canem workshops, and was a 2016 Cal Loop Creative Writing Workshop Fellow. LeConte's work has been published in a diverse array of spaces, such as Poetry Magazine, Mom Egg Review, The Killings Review of Arts and Letters, Journal of Poetry Therapy, and The Feminist Wire. She's a scholar, educator, and poet in and out of the classroom and community spaces, and is currently the director of public health practice and a clinical associate professor at NYU. Welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Bettina.
Thank you.
Thank you for your curation and your editing of the issue. Thank you for your hosting and emceeing tonight. Thank you for your care in this work. I love that Donna went before me and also was featured in the same issue. In addition to being friends, Donna was my doula. And so it's, I feel like she also doulaed me in this reading, right? Coming before me. There's a lot of friends and family on the Zoom, so hey y'all. Many of the places and spaces that Bettina read in my bio will be featured in the reading tonight, so I'm going to take you on that journey. A riot always finds us. Canfield, Arkansas, 1896. We're children, babies really, when the fires start. A mob is always ready to take our wages, run us away, always ready to lynch us. When a volley of shots be my lullabies, I won't live to see 30. Sherman, Texas, 1930. They always claim we crazy, always wave an American flag when they beat us down. When the fire don't kill us, they shoot us down. How you gonna hang a nigga when he's already dead? Lynch us in our own neighborhood, then proceed to burn it down. From the smoke, I develop asthma, a quick temper, and I always keep a gun close. Los Angeles, California, 1965. Everything Black was named Watts. Watts bore the brand. Damn Moynihan. The smoke and fires are in the distance, but the gunshots are real close. I can't tell the police from the National Guard. My pressure's up, I'm scared and under martial law at the age of 10. Los Angeles, California, 1992. Everywhere is burning. We've been screaming and nobody came to see. What's the matter? What do we need? At 14, I'm just learning my screams, hearing them for the first time, liking the way they sound. Weekend at Nana's. You were all Newport raspy voice, telling me to draw 4 and the color is green, like the rollers you wore at night, covered in toilet tissue. Made me say my prayers and put Vicks salve on my chest, under my nose. You were bacon crumbled in cream of wheat with pet milk and some sunny delight. Perfect cocktail with your shot of insulin. Lift your gown, pinch your thigh just so. You don't flinch. Maybe you'll be a doctor one day, you say. You were brown gravy over rice, fried chicken grease, don't sweat your hair out, pouring Papa some yak. He takes his dinner alone in the kitchen. You make me say my grace before we eat in the dining room. You were a Cadillac, a silver Cadillac with its stereo out. So you bring a radio tucked into the seat cushion between us, roll down Vermont to visit your mama. 10 years since her stroke, and I still call her Gran twice, hoping she can hear me. You were a caramel brown line up your chest, heart surgery and your heart still open. Love your husband from the other room. Love him even when he locks your children out for staying out too late, though they're grown. You sneak and let them in, don't realize they're 30-year-old runaways. You run away to the bathroom, light your Newport, blow the smoke out the screen window, so not to bother my asthma. I'm asleep in your bed, and baby girl needs her rest. This next poem is about one of those children that were locked out, but they're actually grown runaways. And this is the poem that was featured in the issue. Quote unquote, females. Daddy has 3 daughters, still calls women females, as in females is crazy, but not you all, he assures. But perhaps our mamas, I presume? Daddy has 3 sisters. One got left in Germany after the Second World War. One ran to Texas, then to church, then to a closet. One mourns her husband, calls her junior son senior sometimes. Daddy thinks these females is crazy, but they got his same eyes from their daddy side, who also said females is crazy. Because his wife aimed at his chest with sharp scissors. Because his mama died when he was at his other baby mama house. Because his son got served with that child support. It's these females who raise me and who go find daddy when he missing, when he miss out, when he missed. A few more. Growing tired of other people's questions when I got questions of my own. Y'all got plans to grow your family? Y'all, a Southern greeting, a me and a him. I am finally a we. Got, the past of get, and the future of get, a getting, a having. Plans. I'm an Aquarian. Planning for the future is a habit. Is it 2050 yet? I'm ironing my daughter's doctoral robe in the next room. 2, and approaching, a reaching. Grow, like peaches in the backyard, like birds of paradise in the front, like Nana and Mama know how to do. Why not me? Your, like something of my own, like me and my man, like an ours and an us. Family. I paid like $300 for a sheet of paper to tell me that maybe we were stolen from Sierra Leone. Use Google Translate to understand the whispers of some braided-haired woman from Quisqueya who visit me in my dreams. Her name is Lucilla. Her name be Light. Carry Lapis Lazuli in my carry-on a flight to Mississippi, goddamn. All this uprooting and sweeping up the dust. My man spins earth, wind, and fire tonight. And I think that must be a gumbo. That must be a nursery rhyme. Bettina talked about the goatee growing back, the unibrow growing. We talk a lot during COVID, during the quarantine, about not visiting our beauticians, our estheticians, and not just about beauty, but sometimes those people are our therapists, right? So this poem is called Waiting for a Landing Strip. Now that a probe or a needle or a speculum or a catheter or a suppository or a blood clot is not shoved up my cooch, I go get waxed. Me and Liz talk like old friends. I mean, she does know me inside and out, but only since last April. She asked me where I've been, and I say work. Only part of the truth, but the part that everyone believes. And since we're talking about work, Liz and I talk shop about white supremacy and macroaggressions and white tears. And I hope I spell esthetician right when I give her her props for getting my mind off of not being a mama after all again this month or last, and for not hurting me one bit. And for the last one, this is a abecedarian poem. So each line begins with the first line begins with A, and then each line begins with the letter of the alphabet going in consecutive order. And I'm gonna invite a special guest to join me because I wrote this when she was baking. This is Worthy, waking up. She's Facebook famous, but some of you get to see her. And she helped me pick out these poems tonight. So I wrote this for her. Growing an expanded dictionary. Armed with tons of information, pamphlets, apps, what an overwhelming beginning of it all. My clothes are starting to fit a little tighter. Your daddy deals with my swinging moods. You were our embryo, so precious, now a fetus feeding off of ginger ale, ginger candy, anything, everything, because I'm always hungry. I imagine what your smile looks like, what your joy might feel like. Your daddy kisses my belly. I bust out laughing. My masseuse was a nurse, is a mommy of 5, checks in on me. Tell her I'm always nauseous. She nods. Oreo shakes are so good. Keep me coughing at night though. Prenatal vitamins are horse pills, but I still take them diligently. Think they make me queasy, needing my rest, so sleepy, titties hurt. But your daddy says this is part of the sacrifice. We saw you on the ultrasound, heart beating strong, arms budding, you just a moving, giving me vivid dreams of you in a onesie and hair bows and bassinets. I'm a Gen Xer, just now becoming a mom. So you will hear about typewriters, home phones, and music videos. You seem to like yoga, but can't stand a damn zipper, just like your mama. Can't wait to meet you in person. I've loved you forever already. Thank you.
Thank you so much, LeConte. It's, it's so adorable to see the little one give, I'm sure it's awakening a whole lot of baby hungers. It's unfair. We're all quarantining. I don't know how that's supposed to work out. Thank you. Our next writer is an amazing writer. I live in the city of Seattle. She has been the Seattle Civic Poet like for 2 terms. I think now it's not her term, but it has been much of the time that I've lived here. And of course, she has brought consciousness and lyricism to the city and to the world while she was, I'm not even reading her bio, this is me. While she was the civic poet, she proceeded to publish 3 books in 1 year, which is just inadvisable. But let me introduce to you Anastasia Renee. Anastasia Renee is a writer, TEDx speaker, Deep End podcast co-host, and an interdisciplinary artist. The recipient of the 2018 James W. Ray Distinguished Artist Award for Washington Artists and Literary, Seattle Civic Poet from 2017 to 2019, and Poet in Residence at Hugo House 2015 to 2017. She has received fellowships and residencies from Cave Canem, Hedgebrook, Vona, Artist Trust, Jack Straw, Ragdale, Mineral School, Hypatia in the Woods, and the New Orleans Writers Residency. Anastasia Renee's work has been published in Foglifter, Cascadia Magazine, Pinwheel, The Fight and Fiddle, Glow, The A-Line, Ms. Magazine, and a host of other publications, including now Auburn Avenue, special issue on gender. Please welcome to the virtual stage, Anastasia Renee.
Hi. How much after a baby?
Unfair.
Unfair. There's nothing. I just, I want to thank you for curating, and thank you for just being who you are and all that you are. And thank you to the readers who have gone before me and who will go after me. Lately, I just want to sit back and listen to other people share their work. But I'm going to share a few pieces on one I think that is in the journal. Can you all hear me okay? Narrate. I am rewriting my own narrative. In this version, I am neither the angry Black protagonist or the occasional Black barista with light brown curly hair and well-meaning white mother. In this version, I am neither invisible or hypersexualized, and I am hairy naked, my stretch marks all lit up like a dancing parasite under a graffiti microscope. Beneath a mirrored ceiling, beneath a green sky, in this version, I am love. 24 duplicates. The Black archivist, the Black mother, she is afraid to delete photo duplicates of her Black child because she doesn't want the energy behind the deletion to filter into the real world, because too many deleted Black bodies downloaded, too many deleted bodies delivered from hand to hand to hand. She will sit with 24 duplicates instead. Bewilder or be wilder. In the slack jaw of this nation's purse is my silver coin flailing, and her desire for an African queen is latent with the dynasty of a fresh prince. Who can recover from the thick throat of the American fame, an olive branch of precociousness poison warped around my navel time after time, enough to make me baby breath to God to green away each and every dividend despite my wall and conduction. My heart says, be wilder. My heart says, bewilder. Black Girl Tarot Cards, 1, the Major Arcana. You major, girl. all your pre and post distilled in a little legacy of last lifetimes, laundry list of furloughed, misshapen moons, and interstellar denials. Tiny little mishaps, hiccuping solo like a distant star, glistening from your whole life's oceanography. You've been the fool and the high priestess and emperor tons of love, loveless lovers in a yellow chariot driven by your own hoofs and breast, each one. Who even knows but you, girl, how much strength it takes for a hermit to live through death or sparrow's beak? No, to hang in the bounds of justice. In your skinful temperance, blessed sun and the stars be just a piece of your wheel of fortune. Girl, you a whirl, you a whirl, you a whirl. Last one. On the edges. If I am a representation of my hair's mood, I am a matted mess kinked up in my apartment's existence. A wayward curl begging for the moisture of day. It doesn't mean that Black is not beautiful. It just means outside of it, I am neither white, but gray, gray, gray.
Thank you so much, Anastasia Renee. Yes, as always, just incredibly vulnerable, beautiful writing, and I'm so excited about with the 5th, 6th, and 7th because I assume that we're publishing in triplicates every time for every book. So I can't wait to read the next few books. Next to the virtual stage is J.E. Sills. J.E. Sills lives in New York City. She's a former newspaper editor completing a novel and stories, This World Between Sky and Dirt. You can find J.E. on Twitter at Joanne Sills and on Instagram at Jojo Sills. Please welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Great.
Wonderful. I'd like to thank Chuck and Bettina. Bosco Girl had been looking for a home for quite a while, and what a home she found in Auburn Avenue. I've been very much buoyed and inspired by the readings today, so thank you. There's I see that many former colleagues and family and friends have joined this virtual reading, and I want to shout out to them and say thank you. I want to also thank my mother and father, both who do not walk this planet, but are very much a part of me every day, for helping me through a very difficult time in my life. And I also want to thank my 4 sisters. There were 5 girls in that household for a very long time. And particularly my older sister, Connie, who you will see in the essay, showed me a couple of things. And my sister, Alice, who's 2 years younger than I, who met me twice a week at the school bus stop, coming back from that school to help me with my books and to help me carry my saxophone. So definitely shout out to her. Growing up, in a certain era, and I'm sure that we have some listeners who know all about Bosco. I love chocolate milk. It was my thing. It gave me comfort, and you couldn't escape the jingle that was on TV at least once a day. I won't sing it for you, but here it is. Just a second. I turned it down.
Put it in my milk for extra energy. Bosco gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Bosco. That's the drink for me.
Bosco Girl. This is a short essay. It's creative nonfiction. The elementary schoolyard is buzzing, but you stand by the fence looking on. They pick teams almost stepping on your toes, but don't see you. A knee sock migrates into your shoe and you try to look unconcerned in that plaid dress with the starched white collar. Play goes on without you, the best ball catcher in Queens. Another time you're in the gym watching classmates couple up for square dancing. The teacher pushes the chubby boy who picks his nose in your direction. He stumbles through the do-si-dos and swing your partner, and you understand why nobody wants him. He wipes his hand each time you stop, like your coca rubs off, but you fear contamination too. Your best friend on the block interrogates, why you talk like a white girl? And she also wants to know why you're square dancing in the age of boogaloo. She turns up her transistor radio and slides her Chuck Taylors across the pavement, nodding her head and snapping her fingers at you. Then there's the day the arch villain of your elementary school years gets the third grade class chanting at you, Bosco, Bosco, Bosco. You feel a certain way about them trying to shame you, this time invoking the name of your favorite chocolate drink. You look at the teacher who continues to write on the board. Most of your classmates join in, but the girl with Patty Duke hair who will become your friend. You have an outer body dream experience, otherwise you can't explain how you sailed across that classroom and punched that boy in the head when the principal calls you down the next day. Are you Supergirl? You do remember running down the hallway of PS 26 for the front doors, but divert into a bathroom because the only way you know how to get home is on the school bus. No one comes in to check on you. It's peaceful until your hand begins to throb. Later at home, Big Sis Connie will advise you on how to go for the body's soft spots next time. Your parents are angry. The way they were after your first days at that school when ladies in nice dresses with baby strollers and men in suits and ties shouted at you to go back home. Teenage boys in cuff dungarees and t-shirts snarl. You and the other black ducklings paddle through this hail of hate. Angry the way your father watches television, how sheriffs turn on fire hoses and blast away at well-dressed little black children just like you in the homeland. Down sidewalks and across streets, they tumble and roll and scrape and slide. They grasp for air, splay fingers and try to grab hold of something, anything in Georgia, the old country, that place your daddy love hates. Ooh, but child, wait. Your mama takes a switch to the principal over the phone. She summons her flawless English, her superior vocabulary, her education, and threatens to come down to his office. It's been 3 years already. Don't let me have to call the newspapers on you. You stand there with your mouth open. Then she declares a moratorium on Bosco syrup and pulls it from the refrigerator, roots it out of the pantry. Your older sisters protest, then shoot the evil eye at you, but you duck. That night, your mother irons her dress and puts extra starch on the collar like it's a badass heat shield. She winks. You think you just may be Supergirl. 30 years later, you're a newspaper editor with a family and a life and a haunting. You look up that girl with Patty Duke hair to see if she has a class picture. You're writing about what happened to you in elementary school, she asks. Oh, what happened? The picture arrives and there you are squinting in the glare of the sun and whiteness. Your expression is the unreadable mask you've learned to wear for these all white occasions. The 6th grade teacher cheerfully sits in the middle. She writes in your graduation autograph book, your creative writing is so exciting. I look forward to reading your stories. In the hurly-burly of the house you live in, the book gets lost, but the words don't. 40 odd years later, after elementary school, you're at a city gym and it's work with a partner time. You still dread this and prepare. A cheerful young woman surprises you though and asked if you'd be her partner. As you bounce and pass the exercise ball, the kid in knee socks and plaid dress flashes past you, sails up over the indoor track and dives down by the squash courts. It's Bosco Girl, your chocolate girl superhero and the best ball catcher in all of Queens. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And so I don't think we have our special guest in here yet. So I'm going to stall a little bit by reading the poem that I was going to read to close us out. And if it closes us out, it closes us out. All right. So this poem is titled On or About July 10th, 2015. It was published not long after the death of Sandra Bland in 2015 at the offing, and then subsequently in an article that I wrote called Sapphire as Praxis. And so it's the digital video, there's a corresponding video poem that's up in my digital repository. If you go to dr.bettinajudd.com, that's dr.bettinajudd.com, you'll see a series of my videos there. So this is on or about July 10th, 2015. And that is a refrain, a legal refrain from the lawsuit filed by Sandra Bland's family against Waller County. You're plowing through heartbreak, a cigarette between your fingers, the radio's bass beating into your sternum, a song in your throat. You feel watched. You pull over to avert, and the eyes pull over with you. You know that this happens. You know how this happens and why. You know that it has no name, cannot be named without a price. To call the officer out, to call the officer the police, to say a thing like, my rights. You will be naming that which will invite your death. It will be you. It is not funny how he asked a question to which he knew the answer and yet didn't understand his own damn question. It's an odd question. Discount your memory, and they will, but his answer to his question was, it feels like you will die very soon. On or about July 10th, 2015, you lived. Heartbreak, whether you like it or not, makes you woefully aware that you have a heart, that it is beating, that it beats in a chorus, and that it is yours. You can live for the heart, even if, perhaps because it is breaking, but you cannot live for him. So, on or about July 10th, 2015, you chose to live, which invited a very certain and undeniable death. So very certain that 3 days later, they called it suicide, called you crazy, invoked a trope to make it fall into sense, arrogant, uncooperative, belligerent, angry Black woman. And we knew, Sandra, that whatever your choices were, whatever hand wrapped a thing around your neck, we know that thing. Whomever witnessed your breath, we know them as well. However you moved about your sadness, who would we be without sadness? We knew that you did not merely so happen to, in this particular instance, even though you may have had any number of reasons to implode. That's never how it works. On or about July 10th to July 13th, 2015, at various points in time, you lived as electronic reverb, yourself, surrounded by your fading self, in the vacuum of silence that is Black womanhood. Thank you. So, still waiting for a message from my co-host, my secret co-host. I will say thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. Please join us next week for our final installment, where we will also have a special guest, but our readers are Alejandro Heredia, Teresa M. Lagarde, Sequoia Manor, Candace Merritt, and our special guest, who I think I saw in here. Okay, they aren't here no more. I don't see them anymore. But our special guest will be S.A. Smythe. If you don't know, now you know, look them up. Also look at whatever fabulous suit they're wearing, because every time I see them, it's just flat. But that is who will be joining us next week. I'm going to go ahead and guess that we're not going to have our special guest this week, but I'm so glad that you all came out, and I trust that SA will be here next week. Thank you so much, Donna Ayn Davis. Thank you so much, Shay Still. Thank you so much, LaConte Dill. Thank you, Anastasia Nay, and thank you, Saida Agostini, for being here and for sharing your amazing work. I am humbled by your presence.
Thank you, Bettina.
Thank
you.
See y'all next week.
Yes.
Give me another reason to put on some lipstick.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.